Bay knows quarterbacks. I'd pay Jordan Love too. Mark Sanchez joining us for our radio audience. Would you be a little concerned that he was erratic early and we have a very small sample size? Does that concern you getting the big contract where he won't return to even practice?
And I think that's part of it, right? That kind of contract hamstrings you with the rest of your roster. Look at where the Cowboys are, and we'll get to the Cowboys later, but we've seen a little bit of both, right? The Jekyll and Hyde, and man, was he good at the end of the year. 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the last 9 games. Yeah. Didn't take any sacks in the playoffs. Did a great job of throwing the ball away. Went in and hung up almost half 100 on the Cowboys, beat them 48-32. And that was a Dan Quinn, good Dallas Cowboys defense that were expected to advance to the next round. So massive upset. He did it all on the road. That's a pretty big deal. So if you're arguing for the contract, you have some ammo. If you're arguing against the contract, part of it is, listen, to make sure your success is sustainable, you might want to take a little haircut and maybe take a page out of the Tom Brady book of making sure there's enough money to go around, because at some point the roster might look a little thin if we don't make this, mutually beneficial for both sides.
Right now, they're so young offensively. If I'm Jordan Love and his agent, can I say, listen, pay us in the first 2 years. We'll go team-friendly the last 2.
At the very end?
Yeah, because then we got to pay our receivers.
I wouldn't be shocked if that's kind of the direction they head, because a lot of these guys, they're the young team, in Little League that grows up together for like 7-8 years, and that whole Little League travel team goes to the same high school, and you're just like, dang it. These guys know everything about each other. They've been playing together forever. The experience that they got last year is, once again, priceless, invaluable, because they got to play in 2 extra games that nobody had them pegged for at a very young age with a bunch of guys on early contracts. I mean, look at even the tight end room. It's a young group with Kraft and Musgrave, and those guys really performed. And, these guys are coming up together. They could be nasty. And in the playoffs, they were tougher, grittier, and feistier than the Cowboys. They just out-executed them, and, it was almost that ignorance is bliss mentality. Right. Let's just go roll out there and play our best ball.
I think my interpretation is Love is a little more Favre than Aaron, not quite as precise, but willing to let her rip.
And I think can cut it loose.
And my take is, Mark, he's not Aaron. Aaron tended to be a very precise quarterback. I think you have to live with Love. I think Love's got a little Josh Allen where he's going to make some throws that you wince. But I'm okay with that because I trust Green Bay's operation.
And get that number. If he's going to make a couple of those throws, take it from 5 or 6 like he was at the early in the season to like 2 or 3, where you're like, kind of hold your breath. Yeah. The more you can just eliminate those for his game. And then we got to watch how it plays out at running back. Aaron Jones goes in the division to the Vikings, and now you bring in Josh Jacobs, who isn't quite the receiving threat maybe as Aaron Jones, but more of the downhill, every down back kind of thing. So you see what they want to do there. But so much youth and experience, and those two things don't really go together, right? And Jordan Love's in a good spot. I think they just got to figure out the contract. I bet you we're talking like a week or so.
That's what
tops,
it feels
because he's there. How valuable are these practices if you don't have the quarterback, right? Like, you're trying to get all your guys going and keep that momentum from the last year. You need those guys together again. You can't lose your most important guy right now, in my opinion. This sets a tone for your season.
So paying the...
Okay. So that's the end of the Packers aspect of that clip. Okay. So off the top, I want to ask Packers fans right off the top, before we get to it more deep into this. Because I know a lot of fans do, for whatever reason, fans hate the idea of a player or a quarterback taking any sort of pay cut. I always find that funny to me, that they're like so on the side of the player over the team in that regard, when the NFL is notoriously all about the team, right? It's all about the name on the front, not on the name on the back. But when it comes to getting paid, they're like, you shouldn't take less than $1 million than you're worth. Those billionaire owners get all the money, and that seems to be like still to this day the go-to thing. So I'm curious what you guys think right off the bat in terms of Jordan Love. I don't want to say taking a pay cut, because I don't think that's a fair phrasing, but just a slightly more team-friendly deal. I think them bringing up the Cowboys is actually a pretty perfect comparison. Not exactly, because I do wholeheartedly believe that Jordan Love will be a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. And I do believe Matt LaFleur is a better coach than Mike McCarthy. So that already now is putting you up in a significantly better position than the Cowboys. But outside of that, it is interesting because we do know, and now that these quarterbacks are just getting more and more and more and more money, we do see what it does to your team when a quarterback just gets all the money. It just becomes very difficult, whether you want to use the Cowboys as a reference, whether you want to use the Bengals as a reference, the Bills as a reference. It just is very hard. So you have to ask yourself, this is a young team that will be getting paid eventually. Do you want to back yourself in a corner? And, you don't want to, because this is a team that could be great and elite for years to come. So if you just structure the contracts appropriately, you're still going to make bank. You're going to have to take slightly team-friendly deals. But if all goes to plan, you should be winning at an obnoxiously high rate. And should be winning, like again, if all goes to plan, of course. Winning multiple Super Bowls. Not just one of these teams that wins a Super Bowl, and then it's like, all right, are we going to be fighting to try to, do it again kind of a thing? Like, again, I know the Bengals didn't win a Super Bowl, and they've dealt with some injuries, but the Bengals got to the Super Bowl, and then Joe Burrow was like, this is our expectations every year, and it's like, they haven't gotten back there again. And again, I understand that injuries got there, but that's just the way it goes. The Packers aren't set up for that, though. The Packers are set up to be a team that, I don't want to say that they're equivalent to the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they earned every right to be the Kansas City Chiefs. But at the same time, we know that they are consistently competitive and consistently at the top to win a Super Bowl. And you could throw the 49ers in there, even though they technically have not won a Super Bowl, but they are obviously consistently at the top. And that's what the Packers can build. The Packers can legitimately be that team that everyone automatically says, well, the Packers are going to be at the top, and you get to do that for the next 5 years or so. Guaranteed, as long as everyone's healthy. Injuries are always an issue. But as long as everyone stays healthy, if you don't do a contract in a way that forces you to have to let go of certain people and back yourself in a corner, the Packers will legitimately be a top 2, 3, 4, 5 team for the next 5 years. And that's amazing. You have to like your chances of at least getting one Super Bowl out of that. I mean, the only way you don't is if Jordan Love ends up not being that great as people think, or Matt LaFleur proves to be more fake than real, which, again, I don't think so at all. I think Matt LaFleur is an amazing coach. So you have to like your chances there. So, it's a tough thing about the whole short-term versus long-term. Again, no one's saying that Jordan Love has to take, a Baker Mayfield deal or a Kirk Cousins deal. And so I don't know what a team-friendly deal looks like, at least in this current market, because it's I don't even know what the starting price is right now. Are we still in the 55s? Have we jumped up to the 60s? Is it going to be 65? It's where are we right now? Because it does just keep getting incrementally higher and higher and higher. It probably feels, my guess is this. Jordan Love was a little bit more, probably slightly more patient at the beginning of this offseason in terms of getting a deal. And then when he saw a few of these quarterbacks get paid, he probably started to be like, all right, I'm deserving of this money. What's going on here? And to me, he could justify, all right, Goff's been in the league for a while. He's been around the block, went to the NFC Championship game this last season, played really great, really made the Lions become something when they weren't for decades. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been in the NFL for a very long time. It makes sense how you can justify that contract. But I bet you Jordan Love sees Trevor Lawrence get paid, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I know that dude played a few more games than me, but let's be serious. I'm better than Trevor. Look what I did with the Packers relative to what he's done. I balled out in a playoff game. I didn't throw 1,200 interceptions like that dude did. I'm the guy here. We were just a play away from getting to the NFC Championship game. Trevor hasn't done none of that. I don't care what the dude did in college. He's not me. If you're going to pay him all that money, then you owe me that money. That's what I imagine. Obviously, that's an exaggerated version of it, but I have to imagine that just kind of planted a few seeds in Jordan Love's head to start to think like, all right, if those types of quarterbacks with that level of experience and that level of success got paid, then I'm definitely ready to get paid. And so it'll be really interesting to see how he constructs this deal, and what the Packers want to do and how they want to approach it. I think we're going to learn a lot about Jordan Love right now, honestly. Because does he just want the maximum amount of money that he can get? No question. Give it to me now. Worry about everything later. Or does he take kind of like what Colin said, where it's like we're gonna kind of on the back end give a more team friendly deal? It's going to be really interesting. I honestly truly have no idea how it's going to unfold. The Packers are always pretty interesting in terms of how they kind of go about their business in that regard, because they don't have a traditional the Packers aren't run like a traditional team with just like a singular owner and all of that. So it's always going to be interesting to see kind of how this all unfolds. But there's a lot at stake. The way I look at it is you're what's at stake right now, what you do today affects you for the next 5 years, right? You're either going to have a legitimate team that will be balling out for the next 5+ years, and then also once you build that foundation, and if it does come into fruition, you'll be able to continue that, because then players are going to be dying to play for you, right? You'll get some of those veterans that are willing to take a pay cut or whatever it may be, or that player that is willing to be on a prove it deal because they just want to play in Green Bay, they want to play for LaFleur, they want to play with Love, right? They want those things, not unlike what happens with the Chiefs. So there's just so much at stake here. There really, really is. And you just don't want to mess it up. You don't want to put yourself in this weird situation where you're just like, we have a really great quarterback, but like we have a couple really good weapons, but we can only keep one. We never got it to win that Super Bowl, and now we're kind of like, what are we doing? We got to really nail this draft if we want to have any chance at just competing for the NFC Championship. Like, it doesn't need to be like that, right? You don't need to be out there in a desert. So hopefully the Packers take the smart move with this, because obviously the division is also going to be competitive. You also have to think about it like that. Like, you're competing with some up and coming teams within that division. And like I keep saying, I think that division is going to be a gauntlet, and it's not, you don't have the luxury of what the Chiefs, because I keep comparing them to the Chiefs. You don't have the luxury of what the Chiefs had, where they've gotten to beat up on the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Chargers for all those years. The Packers never are really going to have that, unless you really think that for some reason the Lions are going to collapse, or if you think Caleb is overrated and the Bears aren't going to be good. I personally don't believe that. So the Packers need to have quite the formidable team to be able to do some damage. And it's all going to start with the quarterback contract. So my eyes are definitely glued to this, because I really, really am fascinated to see not only how much money he gets, but how it's structured, and if there is any type of team-friendly aspect of it. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Jordan Love should take a more team-friendly deal? Do you think he is kind of forcing his hand unnecessarily and shouldn't be doing this at all? Or do you think he should be getting all that money in the world because that's what he is owed? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have fun. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. And I've totally messed up my end, and so I don't even know where I'm at. But thank you so much, and see you next time.